that you're talking about. The advertising thing is a challenge where if you're going to put 10-second or 5-second interstitials on Spotify or Napster or Rhapsody that are just brought to you by Coca-Cola and then the song plays, I personally don't find that offensive. There are people who are like, well, I don't want advertising with my music. Do you want it for free? I'm agreeing, in principle that there has to be a variety of a model that is palatable to somebody that you can say to them, we're going to give you music and you're going to do one of the following things. You're going to pay a subscription fee, or you're going to take advertising, or you're going to let us look at your behavior and be able to share that with advertisers. One of those things, there has to be a quid pro quo. Otherwise, nobody in this room is going to be able to, you asked him the question.
Precisely.
If he had the same, if Pump Up the Volume came out today and it didn't sell 2 million and you didn't get those sales, what was your day job on day 2? And that's the challenge. So for everybody in this room to have music as their day job, there has to be some type of a revenue stream. And it's not just through, well, you'll do a live concert and sell a T-shirt.
Right. Okay. So just to summarize your view, music should be free to the end consumer. Somebody has to pay for the music. There has to be a quid pro quo. So whether you're in an advertising driven model or one with market data, information, there has to be a quid pro quo. There has to be some way of generating revenue with music, even if the consumer does not pay money for it.
Right, but there's even more there. I mean, now that we have access, you talk about having access to 6 million songs. I happen to love Rhapsody. I love Spotify. I love Napster. I love I've been a big proponent of subscription for a few years. The unlimited subscription.
Yeah,
I think it works as an experience.
For whom?
For the consumer.
Okay. Does it work for the labels and the artists?
It doesn't yet. If Apple tomorrow would invent subscription, quote unquote, if Apple announced tomorrow that they were coming out with the iTunes subscription service, everybody would go, why didn't anyone think of this before? So it would all of a sudden be accepted by everybody, and I think it would mainstream. If Apple announced tomorrow that it was, £10 a month for iTunes Unlimited, and you could fill your iPod up with 20,000 tracks, I think you would see subscriptions in the million. It hasn't been it hasn't been messaged right. It hasn't been presented. It's been very awkwardly presented. But anyone that, I'm sure if Rudy's shown Napster to somebody, I've shown Rhapsody to people, or anybody who's used Spotify, the minute you experience unlimited access at your fingertips, it's a no-brainer. The question is, when I have access to 5-6 million songs and I have an hour after these next couple panels, I want to listen to 15 new songs. I'll pay for recommendation. I'll pay whether it's Pandora or Echo Nest or Syntonetic or Music IP or one of these services. I need somebody to handhold me so that I'm not listening to the same stuff over and over again. There was a service, Music Match, years ago. You may be familiar with it. Music Match used to say, put in your favorite artists and we'll help you find music. So I'd put in, being my age, Rolling Stones, The Who, Van Halen, and it would come back and recommend to me the Rolling Stones, The Who, and Van Halen. I knew that. Should I be listening to The Killers? Should I be listening to Kaiser Chiefs? Should I be hearing the new Green Day? What should I be listening to based on what I've done before? Get me to that gee whiz moment of 15 songs in a row that I never would have found on my own. That's what I'll pay for, and I think real music fans will pay for discovery and recommendation.
Okay, so where does the label fit in? I mean, is there a point for a label to even exist, or should this all be bedroom artists using software that costs them $3,000, generate music, pop it up onto a place like Spotify, and everybody go knock themselves out and hear that music for free? Is that the vision of the future?
Well, I don't want to go into reruns, but again, with 6 million songs out there, you're competing in this vast level playing field. I said this yesterday, but I'll elaborate a little bit. You got 6 million songs, and you're trying to get noticed. So, do you need a label? Maybe not. Do you need the expertise, the various services that a label provides? Do you need promotion? Do you need marketing? Do you need publicity?
That's the issue.
You need those functions, and whether those functions come from a traditional label or you outsource them, again, that is a cost of doing business. And whether it's your neighbor who's really good at promoting you online, or it's an EMI or a Sony. I mean, one of the things EMI did recently, which I don't know how it's going to play out, they started offering label services a la carte to artists that aren't on the label. It's an interesting experiment. So you can go to EMI and say, I want you to do my online distribution.
Yeah. I mean, you have William Morris doing the same thing.
Right, and you've got those things. So the expertise is necessary. Whether the labels continue to try and reinvent themselves quickly enough to be those experts, or whether it's folks in the room here, that's to play out. We don't know.
Rudy, in your opinion, does it make sense for Ministry to continue to operate as a label, or should it just sort of call it a day and be a brand and sell merchandise?
Well, Ministry essentially is a brand, and it's a group of different brands. And what we do is we package and we sell good compilations. People trust the brand, they buy them, and we sell shitloads of CDs, and we're really successful and really fucking good at it. The core, I mean, somebody was up on the stage yesterday, I can't remember, I think it was the guy from Cream. He was saying all this about labels trying to get into 360 and trying to clamp down and make more money out of it. It's sad and it's desperate, and this guy was saying, stick to the core of what you're best at. If a label has one or two particular functions it does really well, which are still relevant. So, for instance, Universal, they've got a fucking huge archive of music. A lot of it nobody's even heard. That's what they're good at, and they're really good at marketing that music. Let's do that. They're not so good at working in the digital domain for finding new artists, developing new talent, developing new types of music, and bringing it out into the way that the consumer wants to consume it at the price they want to pay, if they want to pay at all. That's over. That's gone. There are new models starting to emerge now. So for Ministry, we continue doing what we're doing, and we keep our eye on the future.
So in other words, yes, it does make sense for Ministry to stay in the label business for the foreseeable future under our digital dream.
Yep.
Okay, very good. So let me see, just to go back to the role of advertising, I think Ted sees advertisers connected to our vision of the future as a means of generating revenue, even if music has to be free to the end consumer.
Yeah, I mean, bands and brands are a natural tie-in. I think everybody knows that.
Okay.
I mean, whether it's Coca-Cola or it's Nike or it's Adidas or it's Pioneer, whoever it happens to be, there is always a brand that wants to affiliate with the right artist.
Agreed.
And what the challenge right now is, you have Disney sponsoring, and you can't clear every song. So all of a sudden, if Disney is the advertiser, and give me an artist that's offensive right now. Whatever. Let's take something as innocuous as I Kissed a Girl and I Like Katy Perry. Disney, all of a sudden, some Disney executives listening to Spotify, and an ad comes on for Disney next to I Kissed a Girl, and he's calling somebody up. What are we doing this? I mean, they have to let go. The advertisers have to realize that they're involved in music. They're not involved in making a philosophical statement.
Okay, but so the general issue is you see a role for brands, for advertisers. Okay,
absolutely.
Rudy,
I find that really scary. It's true, and we're seeing it all over the place. That they sex up their brand by associating with cool music, and a lot of musicians are completely selling their souls to be associated with brands so they get money, and they've forgotten why they got into music, which is really sad. But what we're seeing is in the 1950s in America, we had a phenomenon where there were guys that made soap powder, and in order to sell their soap powder, they created little dramas on TV called soap operas, and they're fucking everywhere now, and they're really horrible things. I don't know if you guys watch. Have you ever seen a soap opera? Of course you have. Anyway,
it's called the music business.
This is what's starting to happen. Yeah, the music business is a big soap opera. You're JR. So what's starting to happen now is there are brands who are selecting music to sell their brands. And yeah, that's always happened, but it's actually happening in exactly the same way. The music is there to sell shit. It's no longer there as music per se, for its a thing in its own right. And that's the danger that we're falling into, that the talent will get sucked into it by, I'm sorry to say this, by the managers, and they will sell it into brands.
Let me go to a counterpoint for a second. Okay, so you familiar with Ben Harper? Everybody familiar with that? We're relatively familiar. Okay, great artist. I got a call from an agency representing Coca-Cola when I was at EMI, and they said, can you get us to Ben Harper? And I said, what's the deal? And here was the deal. This is a can of Coke. It's sitting back there on an amplifier. They wanted to do a 15-minute film of Ben Harper in rehearsal. There was never on the screen anything that said Coca-Cola. All there was a Coke can sitting on an amp in rehearsal. They were going to pay Ben Harper $100,000 and put this film in 5,000 theaters around the country, digital cinemas, and show, here's what Ben Harper's all about. And Ben Harper said, no, I'm not going to sell out. I'm not going to do a Coke ad. And as much as we tried to convince him that it wasn't an ad for Coca-Cola, that you would have never seen anything. There was no opening chyron presented by Coke. There was no closing thing saying this has been brought to you by Coca-Cola. There was a Coke can. You would have no idea where it came from unless you knew the backstory. He turned the money down. We had a long discussion about, are you not going to play a hall that's sponsored by Cadillac? Are you not going to go on a radio station that's brought to you by Hummer? I mean, where do you draw the line with, quote, I'm not going to sell out? Meanwhile, Neo took the $100,000. They did Neo in the studio. Neo sold 1 million albums, and Ben Harper held on to his, quote, integrity. Now, artists should maintain integrity, and I really never want to ask an artist to do something they don't want to do. This, I thought, was a big mistake.
Yeah, I mean, it is the thin end of the wedge. It starts off with, it's just a Coke can, Ben. It's cool. Go with it, Ben.
And then it's
Coke.
Then
suddenly it's like,
then it's Coke. And then it's heroin.
Ben, you know the Coke can scene in the second scene of the second movie? You know that line you sang in the third verse where you mentioned Punani? We're going to have to take that out, Ben, because that's fucking not on, man. That ain't Coca-Cola.
Right, but here's the point I wanted to drive at.
I know Ben wouldn't say that, but you know what I'm saying.
Well,
I thought you were saying it would go from Coke to cocaine to heroin. Never mind.
That would be good.
That's a gateway, the old gateway drug. So, Rudy, in the Financial Times piece, it mentioned that you've decided to ditch third-party advertisers from the ministry site.
Yeah.
Okay, so how does that fit in?
How's that working for you?
It's good. It's good. I mean, you look at about $500,000 in revenue that's disappearing off of your bottom line, and you're responsible for the P&L, and it's like, fucking hell, how can we do this? But the other side of it is, you're sitting there, you go to the ministry site. I mean, the ministry site's changed a lot, and the Head Candy site and so on. But you go to the site, and you see a hair gel ad, or an EasyJet ad, or Dr. Bernardo's ad, and you're thinking, what the fuck has that got to do with anything that we do? And why would anyone who's a fan of these brands want to see that shit? And we didn't want to see it, and we had to kind of think, well, if we cut and start focusing on producing websites which have more of a boutique feel, which invite you in, learn about you, and deliver the stuff that you actually want to see, want to hear, and get involved with, that makes more sense. So it's cutting back on short-term revenues in order to produce a better long-term experience for the customer.
Right,
I'm sorry, I'm breaking into co-moderating again. Isn't there a midpoint? Isn't there a midpoint where you pick and choose? I mean, we've got this backdrop right here that's got all these sponsors on here. Is this event any less, have any less integrity?
Every single situation, every business, every brand has got its own, priorities and its own strategy. And there is a midpoint. So, for instance, Pioneer will be a fantastic sponsor, if anyone from Pioneer is here, for the download section on our site. That'd be so fucking cool.
Okay.
But
so
that would be
you don't
relevant.
necessarily have to walk away from it completely.
But
Ted,
what you see in
not
third-party banner ads is just abuse of your customers' eyes. You put a pre-roll on a video and you're cannibalizing the audience. It's just a mess.
All right, just to sort of keep it on track, and Ted, if you're not agreeing or disagreeing, let's find a topic on which we can engage you that way.
Okay. I'm not sure what you're saying, but okay.
You're ditching third-party advertisers. And in the same article, it mentions that you're really more interested in gaining information about your own customers. Mm-hmm. And